Everyone, my name is Kim and I'm the founder and creator of Expat Mama. Through these interviews that are both in the audio podcast and the new YouTube channel, we educate people about what it's like to be an expat, which is someone who's left their native country to live in another country, and we tell their stories. Today, my guest is Toby de Lys, who is like a true expat, having said he's from Manhattan, New York, and Paris, but he was early educated in Geneva, Switzerland. He currently lives between Cali and Bogota, Colombia. So I'm so excited to interview him. Welcome, Toby. How are you doing today?
I am very well. Happy New Year. I have to say I'm singularly happy to be being interviewed by you. I feel your project is so important. I cannot overstate that. And I am very grateful as an expat on behalf of myself and all the other expats around the world.
And there's a few of us out here. So can you tell about, let's go back to the origins. Let's go back to your early years and you can tell us about where you lived, how you grew up, what kind of upbringing you had.
Sure. I come from a banking family. My parents had wanted me to learn languages early on in life because they knew that when one learns it as a child, one learns them quicker and better. And that's exactly what happened, thank goodness, because at my age now, I wouldn't learn one iota of any of the languages I speak. So they sent me at a very early age to Geneva, to Switzerland, and they selected the languages that they needed for me to learn. They told the school. So I learned Spanish, that was one of them, Spanish, French, German, Italian. So I'm lucky I learned Spanish because when I decided to move to Colombia, it became such an important tool here, invaluable. So from there, I moved back to New York and Paris. I was shuttling back literally almost every year of my life between Paris and New York. Love Paris. I felt more French growing up than American, though I would love my New York as well. Although I must confess, one day I just woke up in New York as an adult and I said, who am I kidding? I don't like the city anymore. I really don't like it. I call it, I have to be honest, greed capital of the world. So that's it, that's enough for me, you know, no more rat race for me. So we were going to go back to Paris permanently, my life partner and I. And then I read accidentally in an Italian, the Italian version of Vanity Fair, that Bogota was a hidden paradise. So my partner and I had always wanted to come visit Colombia. I was more hesitant, you know, those cliches about security and all that, even though
Sure.
seasoned traveler, you know, I was still hesitant. But that's it. I said, let's go. He was desperate to visit Colombia always. I don't know why. We don't know why. He just felt it. And thank goodness for that. So the first night we arrived in Bogota, it was an instant love affair with the city and the country. We arrived late, and you're gonna laugh, Kim. I always judge cities, big cities, by their French cuisine. I always say if they have a good French restaurant, then it's a city you can take seriously. Yeah. So that's my own personal barometer that I use. So we went out to supper late at night, and Kim, it was magical. We were at a terrace in the Zona Rosa, like a very nice area of the city. It was quiet because it was a Monday night, a holiday. And I said, Tiger, pinch me. These people are so beautiful, so well heeled. One after so romantic. Did that plane take us to Paris? Where are we? So that's how our love affair with Bogota began. We were stunned by the sophistication of the city. It feels very patrician. A lot of people don't know that. Bogota, after all, is older than any city in North America.
Yeah.
And then you begin to understand all that once you live there. So we decided to move to Bogota. We went back home, sold everything, quit our jobs, and about a year later, we're in Bogota. And we've never been happier.
What year was that when you moved, made the big move?
That was 2000. It was about 15 years ago. 2000, yeah, 17, something like that.
Yeah, that would be 15 years ago now that we've turned a new leaf and we're in 2022 now.
Right.
Wow.
But yeah, it was about 2006.
What I haven't told you is that I've also been to Colombia.
Yes. How do you like it?
Oh, yeah, like it. That's an understatement. We went to Medellin 2 years ago, just on vacation. Of course, we live in Mexico, my kids and I. And we just, the 6 months came up where you have to leave Mexico on a tourist visa. So I looked around on my favorite app, Kayak. I don't know if you're familiar with that travel app.
Sure.
And you put in your budget, and $150 came up for this trip from Cancun to Medellin and back. And then I remembered that I actually have a mom friend there who's there with their kids. And I contacted her and I said, like, I just remember that you live there, and that's one of our possibilities that I'm looking at. I can afford it. And so we decided to make it work. And we went there, and it was breathtaking. From the moment we saw the Colombian mountains, which I assume there are the Andes Mountains, it's so green. I mean, I come from Utah, which is it's a desert. So that much green was just like, boom. And then they came to pick us up in the airport, and we got in the van that they came to pick us up in, and it got even better. It was like we were going up and down all these ski slopes. I just couldn't believe the scenery that we were in. It was like we were in the land of Narnia. I don't even know where it was. It's like you say, a hidden paradise. We were blown away. It was our best vacation, hands down. We can't wait to get back. But this time, maybe we have some people that we can visit there. You guys.
We're waiting with more than open arms, with our hearts and our souls.
Mm-hmm.
We become very Colombian that way.
What's not to love there? And then the people, the food, everything. It exceeded our expectation a million times. We just couldn't even believe a place like this could even exist. As I think that maybe you found the same experience when you first went.
Absolutely. I've never spoken to an expat that arrived in Colombia and said they weren't shocked or surprised by what it really is. And in fact, you remember that famous New York chef, Anthony Bourdain?
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm.
Did you know he came to Colombia? Of course he fell in love with it.
Of course.
He came here more than once. He loved the people, the food, the country, the beauty of the country so much that he actually said what you just said. I cannot believe this place exists and not everybody in the world wants to move here. He literally said that. So obviously we more than feel like that. It's been the best decision of our life. By now, we could have been sick of it. We're tired of it. It's not what you think it is. It's not because many countries are very pretty. I love Austria, but I wouldn't live there.
And the cost of living. I mean, you can't even compare Europe. Yeah.
Well, I have an aversion to racism, even though I'm white, I've had many of my friends all over the world have suffered from racism. And Colombia is a paradise for that.
Exactly.
What they think is racism here is forgive me for being so flippant, it's laughable. They have no clue. I see interracial marriages here everywhere. No one bats an eyelash. Nobody cares. It's who you are that matters here.
Yeah. I can totally see that. In fact, my friend was African American, and she just felt so welcome there. And she's like, I want to stay here. She ended up leaving the country to go do her PhD somewhere else, but she just loved the time that she lived there, and I can totally see why. There is no racism there. They're just like, we love who you are, and they welcome with. I could feel that when we were there, most definitely.
Well, we have one dear friend, an Afro-American musician from the States, from Atlanta. a wonderful, extremely talented artist who happened to come to Colombia, fell madly in love with the country, stayed everywhere he could. It's not easy to get the visa to stay and work, but he did it, and we helped him. And then he just went home now to literally collect his family. He has a 2-year plan. He's bringing 14 members of his family to move to Colombia.
From where? From the US?
From the US. They're
I believe
all
it.
Afro-American.
Good decision.
They came here on vacation. They couldn't believe how wonderful it was. They felt no racism. So I said, they'll want to move here. And so they're all, doing the last minute savings to buy a house, to move here. And to me, this is music to my ears, because we're all human beings, Kim, and we all deserve to be treated equally. And, well, I don't even get into that.
No, I'm into that. My last relationship was with an African American man. So imagine during last year.
You understand.
And so I totally get what you're saying. And
Great,
it's getting worse by the minute. It's getting worse. And for people who have been discriminated, and my kids have been discriminated too, because my kids are from Latin America. And when we moved back to Utah, which is ultra conservative, it was a really, really hard move for us because they were not accepted. And I cried a lot. I experienced that immigration process right along with them, because they were born in Argentina, which is, just the fact that they were different. They weren't accepted. The kids didn't want to play with them in the neighborhood. I've gone through that with my own kids, and it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And I imagine, and in New York and throughout other cities in the States, my problem became that because I spoke languages, even as a child, Kim, I wound up helping doctors from Nigeria, from Cote d'Ivoire, from French-speaking African countries, from Haiti, which when they arrived in the US, irrespective of their high education, they were treated like crap, and for the racism.
Right.
So they would depend on a child, me as a teenager or whatever, to help them with paperwork. No one would help them. And
I believe you. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Money. So I became, I absorbed these family stories to my heart, to my core, the pain they went through and why they had to leave their countries, no matter their level of education or whatever.
Oh, the sacrifice that they made just to get to the US, just to be mistreated, and it breaks my heart. Yes, I'm one you can talk freely about these kinds of things because I know what it's like in the US. I know I experienced it firsthand with my sons after living nearly 18 years straight in Latin America. And then when I came back, that was a huge culture shock, reverse culture shock for me. After 6 years of giving it my best shot, I said, we're out of here again. This time we chose Mexico, which we feel great here. But Colombia is another kind of place too. And when we didn't want to go back to Mexico either after we went to Colombia, but the immigration process is much more difficult to get into Colombia, like you said.
Yes. Well, we can talk about that on a personal level later, okay?
Yes, of course.
And be aware, the immigration laws may be changing more this year. It's about to go into the Congress, some new laws. So we'll see where that all lands. But I have my ways of helping, okay?
Of course, it's all who you know in the end.
Sure, it's sure about getting to know the small print behind the laws, and it's doable. And we'll walk you through that if you ever need that or want that. Personally, this is a good segue for me to tell you that among the many reasons I moved to Colombia is because I feel safer here than anywhere. That's the irony. Most people are so fearful to come here, but yes, Colombia is not perfect. Nothing is perfect.
No.
I always tell friends all around the world, we live in an imperfect world, very imperfect.
Yes.
Humanity is very imperfect. Look at Europe. There are 3 major world wars within 50 years. And it wasn't just First World War I and II. In 1870, they had a very bloody war as well. And most people don't know that. And they still didn't learn, in Europe. And so it's humanity upon humanity. And that goes down to the micro level in every country, in every city. So I'm aware of that because like you, I've lived in many countries, and every country has its set of issues. Colombia has its, but overall, I feel safer in Colombia, and more importantly, I see more security and future for myself and my family here than anywhere in the world. You have
Wow,
children.
that's a very, very powerful statement, Toby.
I know. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, to let your audience know, because a lot of people are thinking, maybe I should leave the US, maybe I should leave Canada. Things are getting weird. So,
Very weird.
so that's why I wanted to talk to you about this for the sake of your audience. You don't have to take my word verbatim, but I've done the research. I've paid the price financially, emotionally, to obtain the knowledge that I have by now. And I'm doing the first full-length study of why Colombia will be the best nation on earth in which to survive any troubling years that may come, which I think they will.
Wow.
Let's
Oh,
say
yes.
the
And they're fast coming. They're fast coming.
exactly.
The way things are going right now.
Global warming and everything. The first similar study that just came out a few months ago revealed erroneously, you're going to laugh at this one, they said New Zealand was the best place to move. It is hysterical. That's a joke. I'm sorry, I love New Zealand. I have friends from New Zealand and Australia, but that will not be one of the best places to survive an apocalyptic scenario.
Right?
I hope it never happens, of course. But if something really bad starts to happen, whether it's environment related or social related or politically, that is warfare related, Colombia is the best from my analysis. Why? This is important for me and for anyone that has a family, anyone who cares about their kids. This is terribly important. First thing is food. Colombia is totally self-sustainable in food. It doesn't need to import anything from anywhere. And more than that, it is one of the few countries on the planet that produces food all year round.
Yeah.
Mexico does not.
No, you're so right about that. We can't
Yeah.
even get avocados right now.
Exactly.
Which is like a staple food for this country.
I know. I love Mexico. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the. Ironically, it will be one of the other countries that will be best able to survive what's coming. But Colombia will far pace Mexico and most other countries on the planet. Again, food, industry. Colombia is totally autonomous in its industry. It produces cars, airplanes, boats. A lot of people don't know that. Refrigerators, everything, parts to everything, healthcare. They produce their own machinery. They produce their own medicines. One of the best healthcare systems in the world. It was ranked #1 by the World Health Organization.
Is that
in the
so?
Americas? Yes, that's it.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
#1, huh?
#1 in the Americas. That includes the US and Canada. #1, above the US and Canada. They invented the pacemaker for the heart in Colombia. LASIK surgery for the eyes was invented in Colombia.
Oh, wow.
I could go on. Cervical cancer research and medicines here in Colombia. And I could go on and on. It's shocking. The science.
Shocking in a good way, but it is really just so enlightening. This is so important to know this information.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So again, in a world that's falling apart, Colombia does not need to export its medicines or technology from China or from anywhere. They have it. That's all industries. So healthcare, food. Now, if the rise in sea levels become very bad, which they will, within 5 years, Now the big glacier, the Thwaites Glacier, is now they're anticipating its meltdown into the ocean. That is frankly catastrophic for all the cities that are on the waterfront, which are most of the large urban centers of the world. Most New York, LA, London, Paris. It's just, and goes, I could go on and on. Most Asian cities will be underwater, are already becoming, Jakarta already has a huge problem. They're moving the capital of Indonesia outside of Jakarta because of it. Colombia is one of the few countries, in fact, it's the only major OECD country on the planet, OECD meaning a developed country, a developed economy, is the only major developed economy in the world that has all its major cities in the interior, well high in altitude. So yes, we would lose our coastal cities, but they are minor in size than all the bulk of the cities, which are, I would say 80% of the population of Colombia, 80 to 87% is well above sea level, very high above sea level. That means it's infrastructure, electrical grid. By the way, Colombia has the best electrical grid in Latin America. All renewable, 85% renewable energy, soon to be more like 95.
You're getting my brain cells moving here, and I'm just remembering that week I was in Medellin, I commented to my boys, I feel like I can breathe again. There was so much oxygen in that air that I don't feel I've never felt anywhere in the world. What you're saying is completely spot on. They don't have the contamination and the pollution that the other cities that you're describing have. And that they're moving into other cities because people cannot be sustained there. I mean, and there's probably a lot of, and they're probably healthier. You tell me.
Oh yes, we're healthier. We live longer. The life expectancy of Colombians is very high. If you don't take into account the soldiers that die with the conflict with the guerrillas still in the peripheral areas of the country, men and women live very longer than in the U.S. here, and it's just the quality of life is amazing here. You feel better, you breathe better.
That's the way I felt when I was there. There was a notable difference.
Absolutely. The plants give you life. The trees give you life. Colombia is far greener than New Zealand. I've spoken to Hollywood directors and now they're listening to me. If you guys had done Narnia or what is it, Lord of the Rings in Colombia instead of New Zealand, you would have saved so much money and had a much greener country, better photogenic scenes, because it's so diverse here. Colombia is the most biodiverse country on earth per square meter. We are actually side by side with Brazil for total number of species in the world. We outrank Brazil. We outrank Brazil for flowers and birds and butterflies.
So the ecosystem is live and kicking.
Totally, and better protected than Brazil or anywhere.
Better protected. Oh, interesting.
Colombia
so they have a more awareness and consciousness, is what you're saying.
In Latin America, we're #1. Costa Rica has made a lot of progress too, but Costa Rica doesn't have the responsibility of a large country like this to protect. And as biodiverse as Colombia. Costa Rica is tiny compared to Colombia. So, but Colombia received many awards, and yesterday received a major recognition by the European Union of how Colombia is one of the leading nations on earth in protecting the environment with laws and actual application of the laws.
That just fills me up with so much joy.
Oh,
honestly, I cannot wait to get back. It's like my #1 on the list. As soon as this disaster blows over, hopefully it will. We can travel again. Definitely want to get there.
We'll be waiting for you. Colombia has a lot she wants to show you. She's like this living organism that, how could I put this? One time, a fellow expat said, he was very spiritual. He said to me, Toby, you know, I really echo a lot of your feelings. I feel I came here because something spiritual called me. And so I responded to him, well, there is a study here by a famous anthropologist who studied one of the local indigenous folk, hieroglyphics and all that, from the Muisca Indians here, where Bogota was founded. And she said that there's a prophecy within their culture that at the end of the cycle, the most spiritually advanced people would return to what is today Bogota and its region, and that is to say Colombia. Isn't that amazing? So
And I believe everything you're telling me because I've been there and I've seen it. But even if I hadn't been there, there is an energy in that place that cannot be described with human words. A vitality. I mean, I'm trying. I'm a professional linguist, Toby. I'm full of words and descriptions and all that. But when we went there, I was just like, and my boys felt the same way. They were just like, oh, this place is, we couldn't describe it with human words. It was a special, sacred place.
God.
It really was.
I'm getting chills listening to you. You know,
I'm getting chills talking about it with this talk because honestly, it's just, it is paradise, but it's even more than paradise.
It's the next step to whatever humanity is supposed to be.
Yes, I echo that.
I know, I can feel it. And I got goose pimples because I've rarely heard anyone articulate as well we just did about Colombia.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm doing my best, but I'm still short on words. From the experience that we had in the 1 week that pretty much changed our whole lives, or 1 week that we spent in Medellin, Colombia.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. It changed our life. When we came here, we just came for 2 weeks, a 2-week vacation. So I said to Tiger, to my partner, no one's going to believe this. So we bought a book, this huge, very expensive book, just about Bogota, right? And we took it to our offices and we would tell our fellow coworkers, and it's like, yeah, that's nice. There was nothing, like you just said, there are nothing in words. You are definitely a talented crafts person with language. I can tell that already. I'm a polyglot, but I'm a sloppy speaker. I think I'm very dyslexic with all of my languages from my whole life. I love them, but you are very articulate. And if you can't find them, and if I can't find the words, then there really are, you just have to feel it.
Exactly. Colombia is something that just has to be felt.
Exactly.
And it awakens your 5 senses by being there, and at every level. I mean, the Airbnb, have you been to Medellin?
Sure.
Of course, you've probably been all over the place. So that city is considered like the eternal spring. There's a dew in the air. There's oxygen. You can actually breathe better. I was like, I don't breathe this. I have chronic respiratory illnesses and sleep apnea. There, I felt like I could actually sleep better. I could breathe better. It was amazing. I've never felt like that anywhere in the world, and I forgot my whole train of thought that I was going to say. Our Airbnb that we were blessed to have booked in Poblado, you know the neighborhood I'm talking about?
Sure.
That wasn't too far away from that mall, Viva Envigado. Were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, I'm listening attentively.
Yeah, it was like on the 10th floor of a building in a very vegetative, I just don't know the word, a very green neighborhood. Poblado is a beautiful neighborhood. But my son could just look straight out and see the whole neighborhood because all the windows were just this beautiful view everywhere you looked. It was such a blessing to be there, and we didn't know it was going to be that awesome. I just can't say enough. Like I said, I'm a translator. I'm a wordsmith, but I cannot come up with the words that describe this place.
I can't either.
Something that has to be felt. I
Yes.
hope lots of people hear this interview because honestly, this place is the bomb.
Beautifully said.
And I'm not talking about bombs that explode.
I know. No, so beautifully said, because this sounds bombastic and from my end, but we need to save lives right now, I feel.
Mhm.
There are a lot of good people in the US and around the world that are desperately looking where to go to, and they don't know. I estimate from my research about 3 to 4 million Americans already left the US in the past 5 years, even more, the past 15 years, I'd say, to other countries. But if more Americans knew about Colombia, wow. But again,
that's it.
right?
You know, it's really interesting because I've been living abroad for over 21 years between Argentina and Mexico, and then we've traveled to Colombia and Cuba as well. And this last year, when my industry shut down, because I do legal translation, when the US courts shut down, I pretty much lost all my income sources. So we went back to the US, this time Northern California, to live for a while. I just, that first week there, I could not believe the homelessness that I saw. We weren't that far away from the Bay Area, from San Francisco. Oh my gosh, I'm an empath, so I feel things very deeply. And I'll never forget the first time I went to a supermarket there in the US. I saw and felt a despair that I'd never seen in my country before. And I met some pretty interesting people, like veterans who were homeless. I'm like, is this the country that I grew up in? I did not like what I saw. Did not like what I saw. We gave it 9 months there, really gave it a shot. And it was in the middle of COVID. And I said, that's it. I made the decision the same day in January of this year. Well, now last year, a year ago. And I said, we're out of here. Bought a ticket to Guadalajara and we're back to the place where we're happy in Mexico, you know. Where I live is awesome, is completely awesome, but not as awesome as Colombia. But the point is here, it's like you say, if people knew what they were missing out, they don't know what they're missing out on, and they're living so horribly right now, and they're living under conditions, under submissive conditions. Things are fast changing and not for the good. People are really, truly suffering. I saw it firsthand in the US. I, for one, suffered while I was there again. And I'm like, there's no way I'm coming back to live here ever again. That was it.
Well, warning, warning, warning. If you ever do move to Colombia, you will definitely not want to go back to the States.
Oh, I'm not going back anyway. I love where we live.
Guadalajara is wonderful. Yeah, Guadalajara is wonderful. But I've seen so much trauma of foreigners that were living happy here, and for some reason their job, whatever, had forced them to move back stateside, and they became honestly psychologically troubled.
Oh yes. I was depressed this last time.
A lot of depression.
And in fact, every time I go back to the US, I fall into a deep depression. Our mental health this last year, being on lockdown in California, was serious. It took a serious hit. And at one point I had a moment of coherence, just like, we're out of here. And I made a decision the same day. It was just like, this is it. There's nothing for us here. There's absolutely, we've done everything we need to do here. And it's time to go back to abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that serious because I finally just like had a moment where I just woke up and I'm like, nothing's going to change here. The longer we're here, the worse things are going to get. And we know what it's like to live abroad, and I don't need to live in a place like the U.S. My income is completely location independent. I can live anywhere in the world. So why would we stay in the U.S.? Why? And suffer. I'm totally passionate about that, just like you are.
Well, you're
We're
preaching
going to
to the
join
choir.
forces.
We have to. And, you know, I do get work, translation work, you know, we can talk about that. I can farm out work to you, you know, from Colombia. I would be most happy to do that whenever I can. But I've got to tell you, I'm just, my concern with the US is not just the way it is already, how depressing it is. You struck a nerve, a deep nerve with me when you said, and you tore the heartstrings, the strings of my heart. When you said you're empathetic, my partner is extremely empathetic too. I am as well. My partner is excessively so. So when he sees someone hungry in the street or suffering, he feels literally their pain every second.
We feel it 1,000 times more than the average person.
Exactly. I call that part of life quotient. You know how we have IQ. Remember, I'm very techie. I've studied physics and all that stuff.
Emotional intelligence is what you're about ready to get into.
Even more than that.
And more.
Because there's IQ, intelligence quotient, there's emotional quotient, but there's something that I came up with, sort of life quotient, that incorporates not just your feelings, your ability to think and process and absorb, intelligence and maturity. No matter your age, we can all be mature at different ages. So I call it being alive, your capacity to be creative, to find solutions, to create love, to create empathy, to share it. That's what I call life quotient. You're high up on that, as is my partner, as perhaps I am, and we need to protect ourselves and help others that are going to need protection soon. Because let me tell you, the US is facing, I believe, a precipice. So many people have guns. They've run out of bullets so much. Americans don't even know that the bullets that they're buying are now coming from Russia because US suppliers cannot keep up with demand. So the stores are just selling whatever bullets they can get, and they're getting them from Russia even.
Wow.
You know, something is wrong.
Something is seriously wrong. And then people like us, I mean, when I was there this last year, I could feel it. I could touch, as an empath, I could touch and feel the danger that the US is in. Again, I can't put it into words because there are things that you just have to feel. You touched on a very important point, which is creativity. Okay. When you move to a country, a developing country, it could be any country, and where you can create your own life, you can put all your income online, you know, free yourselves of an income that is dependent on a location. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, so I know about this very well. I've created my own income sources. I've created my own company. I did this in Argentina. And if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't have known what I was capable of doing. In Argentina, we got there. My Argentine husband at the time, he has since passed away. He passed away a decade ago in Argentina. But at that time, we arrived with absolutely nothing. In fact, we were like below zero. And within 10 years, 10, 11 years, we were able to create an empire in Argentina. Why? Because the offer, and all I created it was with languages, was speaking English and proofreading and translating. the language skills that I acquired. And when you speak English, you're going to have, if you teach, you're going to have more students than you know what to do with. And again, I've gone back to teaching, Toby, because that is where it's at for me. Okay, there you can do anything, but being in another country, you're mandatorily forced to do things that you won't. That everything's pretty much been done in the first world. And creativity, I feel in the US that my creativity is like, it hits a standstill. I'm not able to think, create, and I'm a creator. I feel like I hit a wall. And when you go into a developing country, not only you're going to be able to offer whatever you're able to offer or create, but you're going to find an audience, a target in those countries that is so appreciative of your gifts. What can you say about that?
Well, again, having lived in other countries like you, and I'm hypersensitive to the creative factors. Colombia is an explosion of a good explosion
Yes,
of,
yes, yes.
of opportunities.
Yes.
You've lived throughout Latin America, so now I have to go the extra mile and explain why Colombia from the business sector more.
Please.
Colombia is the most stable economy in Latin America. A lot of people don't know that. It is the only major economy, it's the only economy in Latin America that has never had a bubble. They had a tiny little bubble in 1991 at the height of their issues. Okay, but even during the worst years of Colombia, the ink was always black in their GDP. What country can say that?
Argentina certainly can't.
No. That, and I didn't want to be that direct.
They're getting worse and worse by the minute.
Every day. Part of the problem is other governments, you know, that, and I won't get into politics, but Colombia, I'll only address Colombia. It is a true democracy, imperfect like every democracy in the world, but it's still a beautiful, beautiful democracy. I studied law as well. Many of my friends in the US said, Toby, with your languages, you should get into the foreign service. So I considered it a bit. Do I want the diplomatic corps or not? And I have many friends who, I've always had friends who in diplomacy, both in the UN and from other countries all around the world, in New York and Washington and Paris. But I said, do I want to ever represent the US abroad? No. Do I ever want to
Not
represent?
anymore.
Never.
Never.
Not then.
Not then, and especially not
then,
right
much less
now.
now. And do I want to represent a US corporation abroad? No.
Nope.
So you see, that was out. So, but getting back to Colombia, some facts most people don't know. A, it is the oldest constitutional democracy in the world without interruption. After the US, the oldest, number 2 after the US, constitutional democracy without interruption. But if you believe, exactly. But if you believe, as I do, that US democracy is broken by lobbyist power,
I do believe that. Yeah.
That makes Colombia the oldest democracy in the world, without interruption.
Wow. And this is not known.
No, it's not. Even many Colombians don't realize it. They know it, the well-educated know it, but then it kind of doesn't snap. Oh yeah, I never compare the dates of our constitution to that of France or Germany or Italy or other countries or the US. They don't understand, they don't see a need to study it as I do.
Well, and the Colombians are always looking for opportunities elsewhere. I know about this because when I first started this channel back in October, one of the first people that I interviewed was a Colombian who decided at 15 years old that she wanted to immigrate to the US. But I think right now she's probably rethinking things.
Well, the good news,
because at that time the mentality was for Colombia, they don't appreciate the country that they live in. Do you agree with me? They don't know. And this happens in other countries too. Argentina the same, but Argentina has some true problems. I mean, it really does. And it's heading towards the way Venezuela is
Yes.
right now. And I still have relatives down there and I'm worried about them. I'm very worried. And then I said, come, let's change countries. Come on, come to a better place, you know, Mexico. And now you got my wheels turning that we may end up in Colombia in the end.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, Argentines never think about Colombia. They have no idea what it is. They have a very very more. It's more a misconception even than the Americans do, and the Americans really have zero clue about Colombia. Argentines also. They just never looked this way. There's reasons for that. One of them in modern history, and I don't know if you know this, when there was the War of the Malvinas, the Falkland Island War.
Yeah, of course I know about that.
Okay, I'm sure you do. Colombia was the only country that honored all its international commitments, and it stayed neutral. The only one in Latin America, because Colombia is the only NATO country in Latin America. Did you know that?
Nope.
It's part of NATO, Colombia. So Colombia's fought in every war with the Allies, with the United States, with Canada, with France, with Great Britain. Colombia sent soldiers in World War II, in the Korean War, in World War I. Most people don't know that. Argentina, Mexico did not. Brazil did not. In fact, they welcomed, like Chile, the Axis powers into their countries. It's sad. Here,
but it's true.
Another very big point to differentiate, because I studied theology. By the way, I have a lot of friends from Utah who are LDS and all that. So I'm well familiar with Utah. I love Utah for what that is, you know, for the US. But in Colombia, get this. This is the only country, one of the few countries on the whole planet, major country, that has never persecuted its Jews or Muslims. It's the only country that has a large Jewish and Muslim immigration for over 500 years. 500 years of Jewish people coming to Colombia, never being persecuted, working side by side with their Muslim, Islamic neighbors, without any argument, having businesses together. Colombia has never had any of its synagogues attacked, but for hate. Never. Isn't that remarkable?
It is completely remarkable, Toby.
So that no other country in Latin America can say that.
No, absolutely
Chile can't
not.
say it, Argentina, Brazil can't say it, Argentina can't. So you see, it's layer upon layer of my love for Colombia. And you hit upon, going back to your question, it is the only negative of Colombia. Living here and knowing that Colombians have no idea what they have, the paradise they live in, all the positive things of the country. They focus they're like the French, they're so educated, they're very much like the French. They see everything that's wrong and focus on that. And it's good to focus on bad things so you can heal them. But it's at times excessive. Many Colombians who have lived abroad have come back. They know Colombia is better.
Thank goodness.
They're getting it. Many young Colombians, because before, like you said, so many want to leave thinking the grass is greener on the other side. And here it's very steeped in their culture, because in recent years, about 30 years ago, they had a very tough time. So many people wanted to leave the country, and you couldn't blame them, because they felt for their security, and they didn't know which way the country was going during the bad years.
Yeah.
So a lot of the middle class just packed up and left, or bought a home in the US just for safety.
Yeah.
Colombians became the #1 investors in real estate in the US in the 80s. A lot of people don't know that. Americans don't know that.
No.
All that growth of Florida was 70% driven by Colombian money.
Interesting.
Isn't it interesting? So.
And the house that I sold in Utah to come to Mexico was bought by a Colombian.
You see? And
because I had the house as an Airbnb before, and they just fell in love with my house. And it was a Colombian that took over my house that bought it. Now I'm just remembering now the fact that means nothing, but anyway.
Colombians are still buying, no, it means a lot. Colombians are still buying a lot of property in the US and in Europe. Colombia is wealthy.
Yes.
So it has a huge middle class. Bogota outsells every Latin American city for Mercedes Benzes and Porsches and Ferraris. Wouldn't believe it, right? It's a very wealthy city. So
Yeah.
Bogota. And so they love to have properties abroad. That they live here, but they're happy to have their properties abroad as well. For tax issues and all that. So it's a rich and vibrant country and economically going strong. Colombia was just ranked the best country in Latin America for its judicial system, for its democracy. In other words, all the judges of the world, there's a body of international judges that study the world and help all the court systems of the world. And they just gave an award a few months ago to Colombia as the best democracy in Latin America.
Love it.
See?
I'd vote for them.
Americans don't know that. Americans should know that. We're a democracy.
They should know
We have
this.
to protect it. We have to protect freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of everything. It's protected here more than the US. And most Americans should also know that Colombia is the #1 military and political ally of the United States.
Wow. So you're teaching me so much right now.
No, and most people don't know it.
No.
But it's vitally important. The Southern Command base for the hemisphere, for the United States, that runs all the armies and navies of the Southern Hemisphere, is based in Bogota.
Wow.
Wouldn't believe that, right?
This has been an awesome, enlightening teaching moment, honestly. We need to spread the news, the good news, because we're hearing way too much bad news lately. So this is good news, because if people in the North knew about this, they wouldn't doubt, in going there. And it's completely safe. I mean, you have to look out like every big city. You don't.
Sure.
I actually interviewed a guy yesterday from Medellin. So that's the video that's right before yours. And he just loves it too. I mean, but he didn't give me half the information. Of course, he hasn't been there as long. He's only been there for a year. But you know Colombia in and out and the political and everything else that you've just shared with us. That's been so invaluable. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. My advantage was that I came equipped with Spanish, fluent, professional Spanish. Most of us Americans don't do that. You did, I did. So we learn quicker what this is. Oh, by the way, I have to, forgive me for telling this. This is a picture of my book. This is the first guidebook to Bogota ever, the first guidebook ever done. It was published by Penguin Random House about a few years ago. It sold out. You can still get it on Amazon. Sorry, I don't mean to do that. I hope it's okay. But the reason I say that is not to promote the book. No, book sold out, and I don't make any money from it right now. But it's to explain to your viewers that if anybody has any key questions about what it's like to live in Bogota or Colombia, feel free to ask.
Reach out, yes.
Sure.
Yes, definitely. Would you like to be contacted so people can ask you about it? And congratulations on that book, by the way.
Thank you. It was hard because most big publishing houses are not doing guidebooks anymore. And I did it in response to the very bad book that Lonely Planet did about Colombia. And they're getting better now, but when they first came out, they didn't even come to Colombia to publish.
And they wrote a book about it, and without even going there. There's something very wrong about that.
Very wrong. So they apologized and all that, and then they sent other reporters. They're still lagging well behind what Colombia is, what Bogota is, but at least they're getting there. And so this was the encounter to the misinformation and disinformation that
Good for you.
their
Good for
book
you.
provided.
I'm an author, so I know what it takes to put a book out, and yours is like a Bible. I mean, yours is thick. That's
Well,
a
you
pretty
have-
thick book that you wrote.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
But
thank
unless
you.
you've written a book, you really can't appreciate what it takes to put a book together. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, is write a book.
It's very hard, the editing process and all that. But so thank you for understanding that, and I congratulate you on all your work, on your linguistic capabilities. I know it's not easy to maintain them. Every day is a new challenge. Oh, and by the way, Colombians speak the finest Spanish in the world.
Yep.
And that's there are reasons that I can tell you later why. Even the King of Spain had to fly to Bogota to inaugurate the launch of the most prolific dictionary written in Spanish language a few years ago. So, and I'll get into the nuances on another occasion why Colombia got to the place it is with its Spanish. It's a fascinating story.
The Spanish was beautiful. It's not a Spanish we could understand, even though they have the vols, but it was such a different dialect that, but we had such a great time there. I mean, every time we get out of a taxi, every time we like walk anywhere, you know, we can't blend in. I'm 5'10", my boys are also very tall. You know, every turn they were offering their help in English and Spanish, whatever, they were just so hospitable, so polite, and so helpful that it just made such an impression on us. And we're like, we've got to learn this dialect because it was hard for us to understand them. And you know, my older son is a native Spanish speaker, but it's a different dialect, you know. And so we determined we were going to watch telenovelas, which are, you know, soap operas, and we love Colombian productions, whatever they are. They're just so beautiful. So that is one of my hobbies that I like to do, is watch Colombian productions.
Did you ever see the Colombian, the original version, which is Colombian, of Ugly Betty?
Betty la Fea,
Betty
yeah.
La Fea? The
Parts.
Colombian
I need to
version.
go back. Which is the original. That's the original one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I'll tell you what we have seen. We've seen The Queen of Flo, La Reina del Flo. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Great production. And then there's the one I just finished, which is in the historical period, and I can't think of, La Esclava Blanca, the white slave. Beautiful production.
Oh.
So, and now, you know, today I can actually say that I can understand Colombian Spanish now. Yay! It took me a while, but it's a beautiful dialect, yes.
Well, in Bogota, it's a little different from Medellin.
Okay.
I gravitate towards the Bogota dialect. It's more neutral and easier to understand. And Medellin's accent is a little sharper from a particular region of Spain that they kept the accent.
In Bogota, you're saying?
In Medellin. In Bogota, it's more neutral. Such a big cosmopolitan city. It's a very neutral Spanish. You will have much easier time with that. Okay.
So I would probably understand them a lot better than the dialect in Medellin.
And a lot easier in Bogota.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know what my next, after this disaster blows over, I know the next city I'll be going to internationally.
Good. And I have many nice things to recommend there for you and the kids.
Yay.
And remember, children are very empathetic too. They're very susceptible to energies. They know. They know.
They do. And they loved it. Is there anything I haven't covered here that you would like to bring into this interview? I don't want to overlook anything.
No, just to recap, with your help, we must counter those cliches about Colombia, the negative ones. People have no idea what this country is.
No, they don't.
And it's just a shame that this country has paid such a high bill for the drug addictions of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I want to say about that. But to come here instead and see for yourself, and more importantly, if you're really concerned about the future of our dying planet or ill planet, our Mother Earth is in trouble. And if you want to really consider moving somewhere, I strongly recommend you study more about Colombia. Come here and feel it for yourself.
Exactly. Feel for yourself and don't be afraid. Just go out and check it out.
Exactly.
And you'll be so glad that you did, and you will be amazed at what there is. And again, it's indescribable, totally indescribable. Hold that thought for just a second here, Toby. Thank you, listeners, viewers, for joining us in this interview today. That has been, for me, particularly rewarding. We would love you to get your comments, your suggestions, anything that you would like to tell us. And don't forget to subscribe. We feature a lot of interesting perspectives from different countries, and we do it in both English and Spanish. So please join us in our community that we're creating that talks about expat life, and we give the reality of what's really happening. Toby de Lys, it has been a delight to have you.
It has been a joy for me and an honor to be even an infinitesimal.
That made me cry. Stop it, stop it. It really has.
From my heart.
And from my heart too. And we're going to be very much in touch. I've got some projects that I want to talk to you about as well. What's the best way for people to contact you if you want to be contacted?
Okay. I guess my Instagram. Some of my artist friends insisted that I have an Instagram, so I did. I launched it. So through Instagram, I think it's a good way for me to filter. A lot of people try to reach me throughout. As you said, because of my book and other things that I've done in Colombia, people always want to reach out to me, and I want to be there for everybody. But it got to a point that I even had to get rid of my WhatsApp. There were so many people leaving me messages. So I'm still trying to help everybody wherever I can. I think Instagram is the easiest way. And Instagram is my name, Toby, T-O-B-Y, de Lys, D-E-L-Y-S. And that could be one way.
And we're going to put that in the description, so whoever wants to contact you can do that. Thank you again so much. So happy that you're my first interview on January 1st, 2022. I think we've kicked off the year with the best interview possible. So thank you so much.
With one exception, I have to send you a big kiss.
Mwah, un beso grande.
Gracias.
Okay.
Gracias,
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao there.